This is Chewy's fuel tank. I'm going to strip it down, clean it up and put a coat of paint on it and refit it to the car. Remember this from last week?
That's the pliers that I lost in the boot, back in service. So I think the pipe that I'm removing is what allows air to flow out of the tank and back up parallel to the filler neck as you pour fuel in at the pump. This one then is an air vent from the tank that goes through a little one-way valve. And these guys are the outlet and the inlet, because there's a fuel return from the pump on this car. This is the main pipe that the fuel flows into the tank when you're at the service station. There's still some fuel in this, even though I thought I drained it before. So I've captured that there in that useful tank. Now to stop any dirt going in, I'll just tape over all these openings. I've also put some tape on that wire that I unfortunately had to cut from the fuel sender unit, the level indicator. Remove these two clips from the sides. So I'm not going to use the wire wheel on this because it is a fuel tank, even though diesel shouldn't be quite so explosive, shall we say, as petrol. I won't go any harsher than the handheld wire brush. Don't want to be making sparks. I keep my old wire brushes and just cut them down, so it can be handy to have different sort of size ones for getting into awkward places. Sander wasn't really ideal for this. It wasn't really getting it back down to a polished metal. Anyway, I blew off the dust and I decided to use a rust converter to stop the progression of rust. Now, it's one that's been sitting on my shelf for ages, so to be fair to the product, I'm not going to name it in case it doesn't work too effectively. It goes on generously, they say, and just on the areas of rust, you leave it about 15 minutes, then you can touch up with a little bit more sparing this time. Leave that on for about 15 minutes, and then you wipe it off dry and leave it half an hour. And I did see it turning quite white over the time, so it's definitely having an effect. I'm going to use a zinc primer then on it, and I'm going to spray that on. So again, that has rust stopping properties as well, so hopefully this tank will last us a good few more years. After all, it is a replaceable part, although I haven't had a look to see if there's any out there. This zinc primer was supplied by mixgarage.com, and I have an affiliate code there that I'll include in the description if you want to order anything there yourself. It's diluted for spraying with a little bit of cellulose thinners, and I am coating everything, but I am focusing mainly on the rusty areas. My top coat is from the same source, and I don't have any for the spray gun for this, so it's only a small little job. The zinc primer will always get used, so I can order plenty of that each time. I gave it 2 coats of the black gloss paint, and that should be enough. Looks like new. Tidying up those little clips that went on 2 of the mountings. Just wire wheeled it back, and with that I used a rattle can of zinc primer and then the same gloss black top coat. While they were drying, then I went back to the car and jacked it up. I've got some nice new Jubilee clips for fitting everything up, and then just had a look around for the bolts, and delighted to find them in the tray that I put them into when they came off a couple of years ago now. I put a bit of lubricant on all of those, and I have to clip up these brake lines. I had loosened that off so as to get the under seal in behind it when I was painting the underbody. I'll clip up the outer ends of these properly when I service the brakes. I'll be concentrating on each corner one at a time before the car gets near the road. Just clipping up the handbrake cable there to keep it out of the way of the tank. It's routed around it. While I was assembling this, I could see that things weren't lining up exactly to their original positions, which made me realize something.
It looks to me like I have these trailing arms on the wrong sides. I'd say that the handbrake cable should be routed on the inside, so they need to be swapped over at a later stage. But while I'm doing the fuel tank, the cable's out of the way, and I'll do that when I'm doing a little bit of attention to the brakes and stuff before we get closer to the road.
So that's where the fuel comes down from the filler. There's a nice little flap inside that stops the fuel splashing back. It probably acts as an anti-siphon as well. More masking here on the tank end of things, which I have to remove now. It's a little bit sticky. I actually went back to the beginning of the video to see what way everything went on. The original spring clips seem quite good quality, so I'll use them again. But I used a new Jubilee clip on the filler pipe. How did I manage when this pliers was missing? So one of these is the fuel to the fuel pump, and the other is a return from it. The third one then is a vapor vent, which goes through a one-way valve. Again, the little clips are in quite good condition, so they can go again. And there's a little bracket that guides them past the edge of the tank safely. I slid the tank into position on an old tire, and I found that wire for the fuel level sender unit. Tucked it back up into the body. I might have to chase the grommet from the other side. So one of them screws on, but the other I just could not see at the time how to disconnect it from the sender unit. I didn't want to disturb that, so I snipped it. I raided one of my boxes of electrical connectors from efox.ie and crimped on a male and a female that could be separated again if the tank ever needs to come off. I scored where the other one contacts the metal, so that will make a good electrical connection. And with limited space, used a screwdriver attachment to the small ratchet. So you can see how that's routed. I have to remove the filler pipe to get it up past the trailing arms and also the anti-roll bar. Then I replace the tire with the jack and jack the tank up into position. I quickly grabbed a bolt to hold it in place and got it on a couple of threads. I then started working my way around the other 3 bolts. I got that one now into position, and I had to put the little clip on this one. The paint had dried on that now, so I just slot that on, and there's one at the opposite side. I just tightened these a bit because I'll need a little bit of wiggle room when I put on the 2 bolts on the other side as well. So tightened them up. And now for my pipes to the fuel pump. I was delighted to find the 2 little clips still on the pipe. So they've been there for quite some time. The car has actually been in and out of the garage in that time as well, so it's kind of remarkable to find them there still. I must remember to put a bolt in that little bracket that's routing those pipes.
The rest of this hose, which goes from here to just above this one, it vents the air back up. So when you're filling in the tank with fuel, the air can go back out of the tank. There's also a little vent from the top of the tank, which is this one. So connect that up. That pipe that prevents the airlock was very rusty. There's a metal section and then another braided section like the one that's here, and I think what I'm going to do is just I don't really like the condition of this either, so I think I'm just going to put one section of hose back up. Now it's a bank holiday weekend, so I'm not going to be able to get that at the moment, so I'll do that at another time. But for now I can put my big filler neck hose in place. So what's the best orientation? I can get this and to be able to reach the clip. There. And another one here. Put that way around. Well, I kind of wasn't really looking forward to this job, but I'm delighted how it's gone, and it's one of the last big reconditioning jobs, especially under the car, so that's great.